Hello folks, my name's Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? So, this is thoughts about the 2016 election, and so I've had a couple of conversations with people recently about, who you're going to vote for and stuff like that. And, I think something that I think this time I'm not going to be as emotionally invested in the election this time as I was, in the past. In fact, I think I probably never will be that invested again ever as long as I live. And it's because, all right, to be honest, I don't like the choices we have this time. I you know what I mean, if I could choose who I would like to be president, I would probably choose Elizabeth Warren. That would be the person that I'd go for. But or even but here's the thing: is that I don't really like any of the candidates that are there. Even Bernie Sanders. I'm not too crazy about him. And don't get me wrong, I support a lot of the things that he supports, and I think he'd make a good president. But I think his ideas are a little too much. For example, universal health care. I really want universal health care. I really, I think that's something that we need in this country in order to, not only is it the right thing to do, we also need it to be competitive with other first world countries. I mean, that if having that effectively removes an expense for the middle class that, so if I get sick, I don't end up fucking homeless, right? And I think it'd be a great thing to do. But you can't just, sign a piece of paper and eradicate our health insurance industry. I mean, that's not the way to go about it. That's, abolish all private insurance or whatever. And that's not how you do it because, suddenly you've got thousands and thousands of people out of work because of that. You know what I mean? No, it would have to be something that would be phased in slowly over years, in order to not be a shock to the economy, right? And I think that's just an example. A lot of Bernie supporters, I think they haven't really thought this stuff through. Another example would be something like, if we were to step up and just leave the Middle East completely. Well, here's the thing. I'm against war, right? I don't think drone strikes are the way to go. I think we shouldn't have invaded Iraq in the first place and all that other stuff. But what happens if you just get up and leave, right? I mean, you can't, it has to be a measured withdrawal, right? Because there's a problem there now. And whether that problem is the result of whatever, it's a result of fucking Bush invading Iraq and all that other shit. At this point, that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant as far as what are we going to do about it in the future. Do we just abandon that entire area and let ISIS take over? No, there has to be, some engagement there, whatever that measure. Personally, I think what the engagement should be is us teaming with the governments in that area in order to stamp out ISIS, And I think we're backing the wrong people. We're backing rebels, and then, one part of the government is arming one sect, and another part is arming a different sect, and they're fighting against each other. And I think it's all fucked up. And I think we should pull back and reassess the situation. But does that mean that we just leave completely? That's what a lot of Bernie supporters think that he would do. And there's just lots of policy nuance like that, which I think a lot of Bernie supporters have not thought through. And the third reason is mainly if he were to be elected, there would be the resistance would be immense. You know what I mean? If you think if there's gridlock now in the government, just imagine if Bernie Sanders were president. It's already bad with Barack Obama. With them blaming him being a socialist and all this other shit, and it's so bad we can't even get a Supreme Court justice nominated. What do you think would happen if fucking Bernie Sanders became president? You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. I think the same thing would happen if Hillary Clinton would be president as well. But I think people are not, understanding that, and I think she would deal with it a lot better, right? I think she'd be a little bit tougher, and because she's basically been dealing with that kind of resistance for the last 40 years, 30, 40 years. So. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, I don't really like her either. Okay, I'm going to straight out say it. Now, there are things I do like about her, mainly because she has the experience, right? I will say that. So let me start with the positive stuff. she has probably the most experience of any of the candidates right now. You know, she was a first lady for 8 years. She was a senator from New York for however many years, you know, 12, 13, 14 years, something like that. She was the secretary of fucking state for, God, 8 years, you know, 6 years. She knows how the game is played, right? She's been in Washington. She's interacted with world leaders. She knows how government works, right? So she's got, you know, it's basically like, you know, do you hire a guy for your job that has zero experience, or you hire somebody that's been doing it for a long time, right? The downside to that is that she's, at this point, the definition of the establishment. And, you know, and she's also a lot more conservative than people give her, you know, people think, right? I mean, she's giving speeches to fucking Goldman Sachs for, you know, thousands of dollars, right? I mean, she's not, you know, and she's trying to project this image now of being like a progressive, and she's like not. I don't know. I mean, maybe she's turning that way now, but anyhow. But so there are certain things I don't like about her. I don't like, you know, the fact that she's essentially fiscally conservative. I don't like that shit. I think she would do better as far as social, you know, social issues go. Definitely she would do better than Trump would, you know. But I think Bernie beats her in that regard. She's just, you know what she is? She's kind of like the weak sauce candidate, you know. It's like, do I have to vote for her? Fine. And then you'll vote for her because you don't like the other guy. She's, you know what I mean? Like, she's the lesser of two evils, and she's not bringing the people to the table the same way that Bernie Sanders is, you know. But at the same time, her policies are a little more realistic in my opinion, you know. So I mean, of the two, I'd probably prefer to have Bernie Sanders in a perfect world, but that's not going to stop me from voting for Hillary Clinton. But at the same time, I'm not going to like engage the same way that I would in the past, you know. I'm not going to debate people online. I'm not going to go to their rallies. I'm not going to, you know, make phone calls, right? For like, I'm not going to volunteer and make phone calls. I'll probably give money, maybe. I might give like $50 or something like that. But I'm not going to go out of my way to help her get elected. I'm just, you know, I'm not feeling it, you know. But and I guess that all depends. I mean, a lot can change between then and now. On the Republican side, obviously, I think Trump is fucking ridiculous, right? You know, I've already made a couple of do not vote for Trump videos, and it just keeps getting worse and worse as far as I can tell. So recently, you know, like you know what he is? He's kind of like Dennis the Menace, you know, that he just does so much bad shit, you know, like almost like a goof, like he's trolling the election, which, you know, if that were to turn out to be true, if he actually is trolling and just doesn't give a shit, then kudos to Donald Trump, because it's fucking the most fantastic troll I've ever seen. But he just doesn't seem to understand how any of this shit works, right? He seems to have no idea how the government works. He has zero experience in the government. You know, that's something I've said before, is that you can't just like run the government the way you would run a business, you know. There are certain things like you can do in a business, like lay people off, you know, or sell off a section of your business which is not doing well and stuff like that. You can't do that shit in government. You can't just be like, okay, well, the national parks don't churn a profit, so I'm just going to sell them off. No, it doesn't work that way. You know, you have to pass laws and shit like that. You have to obey what the law says, you know. You can't just like lay off fucking government employees, you know, without a reason, you know. And it's just like the more I hear about him, the more it's just painfully obvious that he has no fucking clue how the government actually works or what it's supposed to do. Not only that, but it seems like, you know, the racism, right, and the dog whistle politics have just gotten worse. There was a story I saw last night where he chose, as one of his delegates in California, he chose a fucking white supremacist, right, to be one of his official delegates. And it's like, you know, so don't tell me that the guy isn't exploiting, you know, because people are saying that. People say shit like, well, what has he said that's actually racist and all this other crap, you know, completely ignoring all the fucking Mexican, anti-Muslim stuff that he just keeps spewing out of his fucking mouth. You know, now he's like, he's like integrating like white supremacists and shit into his fucking organization. It's like the guy is, oh my god, how fucking blatant do you have to be, you know? And there's a reason why you don't want somebody like that to be the president. You know, it's you know, the president has to represent everybody, right? The president should be someone that makes measured decisions. You know, that's why I think Barack Obama was, you know, is one of the best presidents that we've had in the last 50 years, right? He doesn't overreact, right? Everything that he does is very nuanced, right? And then when he makes a decision, he usually makes a pretty good one, okay? I mean, it's fucking, you know, if there's one thing you can't say about Obama is that he's not impulsive. He doesn't fuck things up. Imagine, you know, like Donald Trump is a guy who takes insults personally, you know, like there's that whole thing about like a magazine 20 years ago made a joke about him having small hands, and that he is like still sending them fucking like cards and notes and shit like that saying that his hands are big. You know, like another one was an artist in Europe painted a nude painting of him, like, you know, with like a really small dick, and he's like suing her, you know. Like, what kind of shit is that? I mean, can you imagine? Because when you're the president, right, people will constantly make fun of you, you know. When you're the president, people will constantly disagree with you, constantly call you names. I mean, fucking, you can only, you know, I mean, everybody knows like how much racism was thrown at fucking Obama, and all the racist memes and people calling him fucking names and all that other shit, and right, making fun of him, all that other crap. He got, you know, there was a thing that Obama got criticized for wearing a tan suit once, you know. I mean, that's not a joke. I'll put the link to that in the thing. Like, he wore a new suit and went on TV, and all the Republican talking heads, all the fucking talk show talking heads were like, you know, bagging on him for that. It's like, you know, so as the president, every single thing you say, everything you do, down to the fucking clothes you wear, are scrutinized. How's he gonna handle that? You know, I mean, this is a guy that can't even take a fucking like joke, you know, that takes jokes personally from 30 years ago. I mean, he's gonna melt down is what he's gonna do. He's gonna go nuts, and who fucking knows what kind of dumbass decisions he'll make that'll just destroy everything. I mean, here's the thing, right? You know, first off, one thing I want to say is that I think this election has proven beyond reasonable doubt that that the parties are not the same. That's something that you hear like libertarians and shit say, you know. All the candidates are exactly the same and they stand for the exact same things. This time they don't. You know, you could say maybe they might have similar interests in elections past. Not this time, all right? The candidates here, the parties are as different as you could possibly fucking get. I mean, Bernie Sanders compared to fucking, you know, Donald Trump, they're not the same. Even Hillary and Donald are just not the same. It's completely different, all right? So that's the first thing. Second thing I want to say, and this is what I'll end with, who you vote for matters, okay? And I've said this before in videos before, and I think it's just very important to, like, you know, emphasize that, you know, because you got to think about, like, you know, who the president is will have a profound impact on your life and the lives of people around the world, okay? Just remember, like, you know, there would be no Iraq war if we didn't vote George W. Bush in, right? Which means that, you know, he never would have invaded, like, if we didn't have George W. Bush, we never would have invaded Iraq. Saddam Hussein would still be in power. There would be no ISIS right now, right? The terrorist, the Paris attacks wouldn't have happened, right? The fucking untold thousands of people who are dead in Iraq and Syria and, you know, in Afghanistan probably wouldn't fucking happen, right? They wouldn't be chopping people's heads off and drowning them in cages and shit like that, right? Those two people in San Bernardino wouldn't have broken into that building and shot up, you know, 16 people or whatever. You know, just think about that one, you know, that one event, right? Bush stealing the election in 2000, because he fucking did, right? Let's not forget about that. You know, there was like election shenanigans going on in Florida, and then the Supreme Court decided the election, right? And so he basically stole it. Him stealing that election led to the deaths of untold thousands. We don't even know how many people died because of the Iraq War and because of, you know, since then, because of terrorism. There's no official body count. It's like, we'll probably never know, right? That's just one decision. That's one president, right? Think about, think about Barack Obama. You know, we voted in Barack Obama, right? 8 years ago, there was no gay marriage in the country, right? Gay people couldn't get married. None of the states legalized marijuana. That's another thing, you know. He's basically, they're not persecuting. He's directed the DEA to not, you know, interfere with state marijuana laws, even though like they still do sometimes. But that's the overall directive, right? They've you know, let's take an issue that Republicans and conservatives like, you know, illegal immigration, right? Illegal immigration is at an all-time low now. You know, Obama has gone and deported over 1 million people, and there's more illegal immigrants leaving the country every day than there are coming in, which, you know, and whether or not, you know, that's an issue that you care about, or if you think that's wrong, whatever, that is a change that has happened in the last 8 years, you know, which also makes, you know, Trump's ridiculous border wall even more useless. It's like, we don't even fucking need it, because it's not even a problem anymore, you know. I mean, what else has Obama done in the last 8 years? You know, fucking healthcare, right? You know, Obamacare, we didn't have that shit back then, you know, 8 years ago, right? Poor people, just imagine that, you know, people say Obamacare sucks and all this other crap. Yeah, it's not the best, right? But 8 years ago, if you had a pre-existing condition, you couldn't get health insurance at all, right? So, you know, you wake up one day, you go to the doctor, you find out you have cancer, right? You go to get health insurance and you can't get it. That's what it was 8 years ago. That's what it was like in the scene. People in other countries out there watching this can't imagine that shit. You know, people in Canada, people in New Zealand, people in England, that's like a foreign concept to them, and they don't understand how this country runs like that. But that's how it was like, you know. And now it's not like that. Now you pay up the ass for it, right? But you can get insurance now, right? Thanks to Barack Obama. I mean, that's, you know. So those are the things that, you know, a president, right? Those are the things that you know, those are examples of how the president can affect your life. So just imagine, you know, Bernie Sanders being the president. What do you think that he'll, you know, how will he change the country, right? Hillary Clinton being president, how will she change the country? Donald Trump being the president, how would he change the country, right? Think about those three things, you know, and then decide who you're going to vote for, right? And here's the thing, and the one last thing that I'll end with, because this is already 18 minutes long. You don't have to vote. That's the last thing, okay? If you don't like any of them, right, don't vote. You know, don't feel like you have to, you know. And you know, in the past I would have said go vote and all that other stuff. But yeah, if you really don't like it, you know, nobody forces you to vote. There's no law in the country that says you have to vote. You don't have to support anybody. You can kick back and just let it all happen, and that's completely within your rights. And if you don't like them, don't do it. You know, don't fucking give any money. Don't debate people online. Don't do anything. Don't volunteer. Don't go vote. That's completely within your purview, right? But do you want, you know, I guess it comes down to, do you hate one guy so much that you'll vote for the other person that you don't like less, right? At this point, for me, yes. At this point, I think Donald Trump is so bad that I will vote for either Clinton or Sanders, whoever gets elected. You know, whoever becomes the nominee, I'll vote for either one of them just to get his ass out, because I think the potential for him to fuck the country up is way worse than theirs. So, anyway, adios, folks.